All right, so we've read the first few sections of the interrogative mood.
Interrogative mood.
Yeah, and basically there's not much of a plot to it yet. It's just kind of sections that kind of have questions that all relate to each other. So I guess we're all gonna go around and say a question that we thought was interesting. Personally, I thought that the question, "Are you prepared for the end?" was interesting because it's very intentionally vague.
The question is followed.
It's followed by "No?" and "Will you wear fur?" Where will I wear fur? What end am I preparing for?
And so, I guess my quotes, there's how he kind of assembles all these questions. I feel like there has to be some kind of manner he does it in, but like all the endings of the certain like sections, they're all really vague. Like the one was like, "Are you ready for the end? Are you prepared for the end?" And they're very vague. Like, "Should I go away, leave you alone? Should I bother about myself?" with an interrogative mood. And so like all the questions at the end of the sections are very vague, but like throughout like each section is just very scattered out questions like, "Are you put off as much as I by the phrase science and art?" Like they're just random questions, but the ones that I found through section 1 were, "Are your emotions pure?" And that's like the first sentence or the first question, like that starts off this novel. And so I thought that was a parallel to 1984 with like Winston's connections to pure emotions. And then on page 7, there's a quote or a question that says, "Is a body catching a body coming through the rye regarded a good thing or a bad thing?" And that's like a huge Catcher in the Rye reference. I picked that up and I thought it was really interesting.
Okay, so the question that I've read so far that I thought was really interesting was, "Do you regard living with routines as liberating or shackling?" Just because, we are all in these sort of routines, but like how would we be without routines? I thought that would be kind of interesting knowing like, it's kind of like, not to, I'm just relating it. I'm not saying there's a specific connection, but how they kind of said freedom is slavery in 1984.
So is that question like saying, do we have like a strict routine, or like are our routines dictated by like slavery or by like actually having like the liberty of freedom?
Like do we feel comfort in like having a set routine of what we're gonna do throughout the day, or like would we rather just be spontaneous about it? I thought that was pretty interesting.
Okay. If we were bombed back into the Stone Age, as what's-his-name proposed in Vietnam, would you have any idea how to go about the process? Would you even start a fire? I thought that question was cool because, we've come really far as a species, especially in like the last 100 years, but like not a lot of people know how we got there, and we couldn't get there again, I don't think, if we had to.
Wasn't there like a question about this that we talked about like a couple days ago, where it's like,
I think there
who
was.
would like invent electricity or something else?
I don't remember
or
the
telephone,
context,
the
yes, we
telephone and
discussed
the
that.
computer.
Well, granted, there's not much context in this
No,
book.
I mean the other time we discussed.
Yeah, I think it was someone talking about a question in the book, and
Yeah.
someone was like, "Who would invent it?"
And it was Nickren and Tim
Nickren.
Clark who would invent the telephone or the computer.
Oh yeah, it was who in AYT.
Yes,
Yeah. We decided on Tim, Nick, and Drew.
That's right.
What I thought was
Dream team.
interesting about that question is like, at what time period do you think like the answer would be no, like we cannot reinvent any of that stuff? Like 50 years ago, would we be able to?
Like,
Would there a
definitely-
point to you doing it again, like reinventing it again?
I think definitely as farther into the future we go, it's harder to remember like how we made stuff from the past, unless it's documented.
So do you think there's like a definite like year or like time period?
1984.
1984.
Oh my god.
Okay.
My favorite question so far is, we all know that pine trees do not lose all their needles at one time unless they are dying. But do we all know that pine trees lose more of their needles at certain times than others? That is to say, let's forget this question and try another. Would you try, okay, I can't read. Would you say that American rock music and American cars have their classic periods and strange synchronization that the two hottest periods were around 1955 and 1969? Well, I like that question because he kind of stopped midway, and he changed his mind about asking that question, and I do that often.
I think
She
rock
can
music
relate.
is not better in the 1950s. That's just my opinion.
Yeah,
Well, like-
I definitely agree with
Cars,
that.
maybe.
With that
Do you
notion.
do you see how like
Cars sucked in the
random that
1950s.
question is? Like
They're just big hunks of metal.
That's what they are now.
No, they didn't even like.
They didn't even have Bluetooth.
Well, here's the
man.
no. Here's the thing though. If you wrecked in a car from like the 1950s or 60s, you would just
Not
die
It's okay. You
No,
just
you-
flew
would
out
you?
and died or something.
because it doesn't crumple.
oh,
It's not made of
oh,
aluminum.
I got
I thought
another.
it's made of steel. It's like-
There's another question that says,
like the coffin.
is belief in Santa Claus or disbelief a kind of primer for belief or disbelief in God?
Oh yeah.
How is Santa Claus connected to God? Like,
Well,
Well, I mean,
like they're
He's
both.
an omnipotent
There's no,
being that is watching you.
proof
He knows
that
when
You
you're
never
sleeping.
see.
by
You
the
never
watch.
He
see
knows when
Santa
you're awake.
Claus.
That's true, but I guess he gives us presents like Santa Claus,
Should we
like
end
the gift of life,
We should
inquisitiveness.
end this.